you for everyone that has come out on this issue. We know that it is just beyond what we could even fathom as far as the number of people that this is impacting all over the nation. So again, my name is Tammy Nichols, and I'm the senator in Idaho District 10, and I serve as the co-chair of the Idaho Child Custody and Domestic Relations Task Force. This year, our task force has been charged with reviewing the systematic issues identified during the hearings that we've held across the state and determining where Idaho's family court system may be failing to meet constitutional, statutory, and ethical standards. We've had 5 meetings throughout our state with hours and hours of public testimony. Usually between 40 to 60 people are there to give testimony, and Dr. Levy, she came, Senator Fincham has been there, and Veronica down at the end. You'll hear from her later, but we've had some amazing testimony, all very sad and very emotional. And then we just held yesterday our first public task force discussion meeting where our task force could discuss together all the information that we've heard and what is our path forward on this. So our mission has been to reach consensus on legislative priorities that will ensure Idaho's judiciary protects due process, parental rights, and child safety as required by law. We recognize that parental rights are fundamental liberties protected not only by the Idaho Constitution, but also by our 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. The U.S. Supreme Court has affirmed these rights time and time again, and Idaho's own courts have called them sacred and not to be lightly interfered with. These are not abstract ideas, they are the very framework of justice in all of our states. And when the system entrusted to uphold them fails, it shakes public confidence in the entire judiciary and leaves real families suffering the consequences. Family and domestic relation laws govern the most personal areas of life, yet unlike other areas of law, it lacks a uniform system of oversight and accountability. Procedures can vary dramatically from county to county and state by state. 2 families facing nearly identical situations may receive entirely different outcomes depending solely on the geographic or judicial discretion. There are many good judges that are out there, attorneys and professionals working within the system. These individuals do care deeply about the children and families and are trying their best within the constraints they face, because I'm working with several of them and they're trying to help us to be able to make changes in our state. However, as the saying goes, one bad apple can spoil the bunch. Even one professional acting outside proper boundaries can erode trust across the system. Even good people struggle to work effectively in a system that isn't transparent, consistent, or clearly guided. When that happens, the system stops working correctly and poor practices begin to take hold. In many cases, we are setting families up for failure and children up for a lifetime of trauma and emotional instability. The problem isn't necessarily the people, however, it's the structure itself. When there is little accountability and an entire process begins to lose its balance and fairness. Our task force has seen patterns of lack of enforcement, lack of transparency, lack of consequences, and a high cost of participation, all of which have allowed inconsistent and sometimes harmful practices to continue unchecked. Without meaningful oversight, there are no guardrails, and families ultimately pay the price. In Idaho, approximately 60% of individuals in family court represent themselves, not because they choose to, but because they cannot afford an attorney. Many are also ordered to pay for mental health evaluations, custody evaluations, supervised evaluations and visitations, parenting classes, transcripts, and counseling. These may serve valuable purpose, but together they create costs that can quickly spiral into thousands and thousands of dollars. We have heard from parents who have had to choose between paying rent and complying with court order services. For many families, justice isn't just delayed, it's out of reach altogether. When one parent can afford representation and the other cannot, the courtroom becomes unbalanced. That reality undermines both due process and equal protection under the law, 2 principles that every court, every judge, and every public servant have sworn to uphold. And for those representing themselves, the maze of rulings, filings, and deadlines can be overwhelming. They're expected to navigate a process that even seasoned attorneys find complex. The result is that too many Idahoans have been walking away from the system feeling powerless heard, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Our task force has also found that the system itself is fragmented. Families are bounced between agencies, evaluators, and courts, each with its own rules, forms, and timelines. There are lengthy delays in hearings, inconsistent enforcement of orders, and confusion when multiple jurisdictions or protective orders overlaps. Families often describe the process as a maze with no exit, and they are right. It demands organization, patience, and resources from people who are already emotionally and financially exhausted. When parents are fighting simply to maintain contact with their children, or grandparents are trying to provide stability, this dysfunction is more than frustrating. It is deeply harmful. Justice delayed, especially in family court, is more than an inconvenience. It can become a childhood lost. Time is not something that we can return to a child or a parent once it's gone. The problems we've identified in Idaho are not isolated. Arizona helped us to get started, and now other states have contacted our task force to share that they are facing the same challenges: lack of oversight, high cost, and declining public trust in the family law system. That tells us that this is not just a state issue, it is a national concern. Idaho is taking a leadership role by shining light on these problems and working towards solutions that both protect parents and children. By addressing this openly and courageously, states like Idaho can become a model for reform, showing that fairness, accountability, and compassion can coexist in our courts. Our task force is developing legislation for upcoming sessions designed to restore balance, fairness, and trust in Idaho's family law system. And you can do the same thing in your states. Among our top priorities are oversight, which establishing a statewide review body or ombudsman to ensure accountability and provide a clear avenue for complaints. Affordability, reducing or capping costs for court-ordered services and offering more tools and legal resources for self-representing litigants, utilizing mediation to help save on costs and reducing caseloads in court. Consistency and enforcement, creating uniform statewide standards so outcomes don't depend on which county or judge hears the case, and reforming temporary orders by setting a mandatory maximum time frame to prevent prolonged uncertainty, making sure orders are enforced and consequences occur when they are not followed. Transparency and accountability, expanding data collection and public reporting so we can identify breakdowns, bad actors, and trends before they become crises. Education, strengthening training for judges, attorneys, and guardians ad litem on trauma, family dynamics, domestic violence, and the long-term impacts of custody decisions. These are just some of the issues that we're looking at for legislation for next session. But these efforts are not about undermining the courts. They are about supporting them, providing the clarity, consistency, and accountability necessary for the system to work as it was intended. Behind every case file is a real family, a parent desperate to see their children, a grandparent trying to hold things together, a child waiting for stability and peace. We've spoken with families who have spent years, even decades, entangled in the system. They've depleted savings, they've lost their jobs, and in many cases, they've lost hope. Children have been uprooted repeatedly and left carrying emotional scars that last well into adulthood. When the process itself becomes the trauma, something is deeply wrong in that system. And at the heart of this work is trust. Trust that our laws will be applied fairly, that due process will be honored, parental rights upheld, and that children will be protected. We cannot continue to ask families to navigate a process that even legal professionals find confusing and chaotic. Family court should not be a place where justice is available only to those that can afford it or manipulate it best. It must be a place where every parent and every child is treated fairly under the law. Parental rights, due process, and child safety are not partisan issues. They are fundamental liberties, and it is our duty as legislators to ensure our laws and courts reflect those values. Families deserve better, and through this task force and others that can be done in your states, we are determined to make sure that they get it. This will take all of us. There is no sitting this out. Each of you have a voice, and now you're being called to use it. Thank you for your time and commitment to this critical issue, and please contact me if you have Any questions, or if we can help get this started in your state? We do hear you, we do understand, we want to make a difference, and it's